Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. That's Joe Smith. This is Paddock Live. We're live. We're on Paddock. We're where we need to be. Yeah. Make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe. Joseph, what we're going to be talking about tonight, my esteemed colleague.
Casemiro dropping absolute revelation bombs.
Yeah.
Ten Hag. He's doing something that no other manager has done quite to the same extent. He's obsessed. What are you obsessed with?
Him.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who I'm obsessed with.
Who?
Martinez.
Oh,
I'm
great.
proper obsessed with him.
We'll be talking about him in a minute.
Good, because I cannot get enough of that. So what else are we going to be talking about other than these beautiful bastards?
Talking about Jude Bellingham. We'll also be talking about Choupo-Moting. Yeah?
One of my favourite regions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, Manchester United are seriously considering Bayern Munich Bayern Munich striker Maxim Choupo-Moting as a replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo. Here's the story, Jay. Look at it.
He looks like someone you could get behind if he was playing for United.
Excuse me?
No, well, you know, either or.
But certainly in the
footballing sense.
United want Choupo-Moting, yeah? United are seriously considering, which I like because I feel like it was written as though it's to be like, you know, they're seriously considering Bayern Munich striker Choupo-Moting. But it feels like it was written like, Man United are seriously considering Bayern Munich striker Choupo-Moting. What, we're seriously considering that?
Seriously considering?
Seriously, guys? Really?
Yeah.
United seriously consider Maxim Choupo-Moting as a replacement for Cristiano Ronaldo. The Cameroonian's contract in Bavaria, some great words there. Cameroonian's contract in Bavaria is a lovely piece of wordage. It expires at the end of this season, and he would therefore be available on the cheap. Yeah, this season he has netted 8 goals in 13 appearances, despite only being on the pitch for 650 minutes. That is some good numbers. That is
like you say, it's some wonderful prose.
Verbiage.
Yeah, verbiage. The Cameroonian's contract in Bavaria expires at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Not very often you hear that sentence.
Yeah, certainly.
A bit like Michael Gambon's, whatever it was.
There's a corner shop.
Yes.
Can we find out how old Choupo-Moting is, please, Ethan?
Yes.
I think he's got to be 32, 33.
What?
Sure, he was playing for Stoke against Man United in 2017.
Nah, man. He's 27, tops.
How
old is he?
I bet you he's over 29.
He's 33.
Shut up. Hey, he's a young-looking lad there. That must be an old photo.
Well, yeah, it's not now. It's not a live stream.
I mean, really? 30, what did you say, 33?
33.
I mean, do we need another mid-30 striker? Because, you know, that's gone so well for us in the past.
Can we go through them?
Igalo.
Zlatan.
All right, let's do it chronologically. Zlatan. He was one season, he was great.
Yeah.
Second season too far for him because he was injured.
Igalo.
Liked his Instagram, scored a good goal against Lask. Wasn't the answer.
Uruguay.
Cavani. I love the fact Uruguay.
I forgot his name.
Again, first season, decent, missed a few games. Second season, faxed it in. I'd had enough of him.
Oh, actually, let me go back a little bit further. Falcao
was unfit. Hadn't recovered from his last injury.
And finally, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Unhappy.
One good season.
We have one season out of him. If he came in for a season, maybe it's not the end of the world. Obviously, you know, decent striker, but really, I don't know. I just feel like we should get something long term for once.
The only way this works is if it's like this happens in January, and it's because Cristiano Ronaldo being at the club is becoming like a real problem for everyone. Excuse me. If Ronaldo in the dressing room is upsetting things, if people are, you know, finding it difficult to work around this whole Cristiano Ronaldo issue, and we get him in on a 18-month deal starting this January, I can get it with the view to buying a more sort of established, bigger name in the summer. That makes some sense to me because then you'd have Choupo-Moting as your third choice, Martial as your second or first choice, and then this new signing as your second or first choice, depending on how it goes. That kind of works. But if this is like, you know, Ronaldo's gone, get him on a 3-year deal, he's your new striker, welcome to 2024, that is a massive problem. Yeah. Because he's not very good, is he? He's not very good. He's a decent striker who, you know, I used to say was awful, and then he scored 2 against us for Stoke. But he's played for Stoke. And yet somehow PSG and Bayern Munich. So I'd take him, but it has to be like an 18-month deal. on the proviso that we are going to buy a first-team striker this summer. This has to be a short-term thing, surely.
Yeah, you think it would be a short-term thing, and it kind of makes sense if it is. We'll get in some of the comments as well. Thanks to Paul Gill, member of the Academy. Welcome to the Academy. We've got extra stuff on the members section as well. You get a discount on merch, and plus we've got some extra content if you go and check out the members section. So big shout out to Paul Gill for his support. We've also got David Burko. Was that the lad we had on the Twitter Spaces?
Not sure.
I think it
David,
was,
certainly.
Yeah, I think it was as well. I think it was. He spoke a lot of sense as well. So if you are on Twitter, we are going to be doing more spaces. I'm sure you all are. We're going to be doing more Twitter spaces. We usually do one before we do the live. We were talking about David De Gea and maybe taking a pay cut for his contract. We'll get into a bit more of that later. I'll just get into some of the comments. Glenn F says we have got to get a striker around about 23 to 25-ish.
Yeah.
Pranjal Singh says consider if it's Osimhen and Kavarat Shakila.
Shakila.
The Ermston Strangler says Tammy would cost 80 million and he isn't worth it. JC says Charlie McNeil. Maybe someone like him comes in for a season. Charlie McNeil has another season. You can assess whether he's up to it or not. I think he is, but you give him another season. Maybe. I don't know.
Do you know what? Well, I've said this before. The realisation I came to today is that when you think about strikers around Europe, most of the top elite strikers who have scored like 40 goal seasons multiple times in their career, or big numbers repeatedly.
Big numbers,
You're looking at, over the last decade, it's been Cavani, Suarez, Lewandowski, Ronaldo, Messi, and then going back a little bit further, you've got the sort of, I don't even know, like your Mario Gomez, Lukaku to a certain extent more recently. But Benzema, right? They're your big ones. Other than that, there's a massive lack of strikers that have scored 30 goals in their career. Haaland's one of them. He's just moved. We're not getting him. Mbappe's one of them. He's been paid the whole world a week at PSG. We're not getting him. After that, you're in I think Terrier for in France. He's like one of the highest up in terms of goals scored in 2022. And I was thinking, well, for 40 to 50 million quid, a striker that could get us 20 plus goals, alongside maybe a winger or two that could also get us 20 plus goals, that's kind of what we need. Who is that? And it's Anthony Martial. He's the perfect striker. He's what we need. A striker that can get you 20 plus goals. We've seen it. He's done it in the Premier League. He can dribble. He's fast enough to get a man off his back and run on goal and not get caught. He can hold the ball up. He's a good finisher. He can build other people into play. If he didn't play for Man United, I know the last 2 seasons have been awful, and he has to prove to us that he's not that guy anymore and he's the guy he was 2 years ago. But if he can, there aren't many strikers across Europe that have got a much better CV than Anthony Martial. I know that sounds mad, but just because of the lack of goal-scoring strikers around at the minute, I don't think getting him fit should be a massive priority for United. Honestly, I do think that. When you're looking at people like Choupo-Moting, he's better than him.
But the thing is, I understand what you're saying. Martial's played 100 Premier League minutes this season. He's been
that's the problem.
He's been almost useless to us.
Yeah.
And I'm not slagging Martial off. I've always stood by Tony M, and I love the kid. But he's no good to us if he's not playing. Now, I know he's having, even by his standards, a horrendous season injury-wise, but if you can't use him at all, if you can only use him for, half against Liverpool and a bit of the game against City and 28 minutes against Everton, that's not any use here. So I agree with what you're saying. I think if he's fit and he plays as well as he can, he's ideal. Yeah. He brings in other players around him. He's not a greedy striker. He's someone who'll get goals and bring in others. Yeah. He's someone who can link up well with his teammates. We saw it in pre-season, him, Sancho and Rashford. We've seen it with him and Sancho in the past. We've seen it with him, Sancho and Greenwood. Obviously, Greenwood's not with him, Rashford and Greenwood. You swap Greenwood for Anthony. It should work. It can work. I've no doubt about that. But if he's on the treatment table for half the season, you may as well go and get Victor Osimhen. If your main worry is his injuries.
You may as well get Choupo-Moting.
Yeah, because they're going to get more games and probably more goals out of him. Yeah. So I completely agree with what you're saying. But you can't ignore that elephant in the room of the kids just having a terrible time injury-wise. Now, hopefully, this, even by his standards, like I said earlier, is just a bad spell in terms of injuries. And he comes back and he's fitter and he has a decent run in the team. Because we've seen Anthony Martial play, 30-odd Premier League games in a season, like he said, when he banged in, I think it was 23 goals in all comps, whatever it was. But at the moment, he has been no use to Manchester United, other than those little cameos. Eric Ten Hag obviously rates him and would love to use him, you can tell. but he can't. So you're having Marcus Rashford down the middle, or you're having to use Cristiano Ronaldo, and it's just a little bit frustrating because we've seen enough from Tony Marshall in pre-season and in the Premier League this season to know that he's got his act together. Yeah. He certainly looks like the Martial that we love. It's just his body's not up to the challenge at the minute, which is a massive shame because I agree. And I think what you're in danger of, and I will just mention this before we move on, you're in danger of going, right, we can't get him. Yeah. We can afford him. Is he good enough? Let's get him anyway. Yeah. And we can't get this wrong.
That's my worry. That is my worry. That's kind of what I'm getting at. We need another striker. I'm not saying don't buy one because we've got Martial. We still need one. But my point is, there are a lot of strikers like Tammy Abraham, like Ivan Toney, like, I don't know, maybe even Victor Osimhen. I know he's a notch above them in terms of potential. But you could get him in, and they could just be half useless. They could get you 15 goals a season. Even someone like Jonathan David, who looks like he's got loads of promise, could come in and do very little because they're not used to scoring 30 goals season in, season out. Not many of those strikers exist. And for some reason, the generation where there seem to be a lot of them, they're going and they're not really being replaced.
Just on that front, you mentioned Jonathan David. Paul Gill in the Super Chat says, if we're getting a striker in either winter or summer, Jonathan David would thrive in Erik Ten Hag's system, has praise and also Canadian bias there too. Yep, I mean, Sherma Full says Martial was the guy who triggered the United resurgence in Ronaldo's absence. Remember pre-season and the Liverpool game? Yeah, I do remember that. We were there, weren't we, for that in Thailand? And straight away you thought, Martial looks at it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There are players out there, don't get me wrong. Someone's mentioned this, right? First name, last name is his name. He's gone Vlahovic, Osimhen, Sesko, Dembele, Mitrovich. Could Mitrovich do a job at United?
I need to see more than a 1/3 of one Premier League season where he looks like a Premier League striker.
Yeah.
Because up until this year, where he's been pretty good,
he's been mint in the Championship, hasn't he? And then he's been problematic in the Premier League.
And he looks better this time in the Premier League. And I think he's just getting to his he's like 26, 27 now. He's getting to that age where he's going to be showing his proper potential. But United can't be buying a new number 9, and it's someone who's had 6 good months in the Premier League. That's what I'm saying. Martial's more proven than him. Yeah. Why? We need to try to buy someone better than Martial. But there's so few available. I don't think Mitrovic is it. I think, who's the other names on that list? Have you got that there still?
Sorry, I think it was Osimhen was one. Again, Vlahovic was another.
Yeah. They're both good, but are they? I don't know. Yeah. There's just, like I said, a lack of that sort of player knocking about at the minute, and you've got to take a risk on someone, and it's going to be a £100 million risk.
Solo from United Agenda was on there earlier. Says, big up Jay and Joe. I would love Ivan Toney at United. He could be the new Andy Cole. And Ivan Toney, I mean, I don't think he'd be the new Andy Cole. Andy Cole was one of the best ever. Yeah. Ivan Toney, for me, and I've said this a few times, would be great if he came in as your second choice striker.
Yeah, for like 30 million.
Yeah. If you had like, Andy Martial was fit all the time, and you went, if we lose Martial, we're in trouble. Ivan Toney comes in, Martial plays 35, 40 games or whatever, Toney plays 15, 20, I'm all right with that. If he's your main striker, that's when I'd be a little bit like, it's a gamble. Yeah. Now, if we're only paying 30, 40 million for him, okay, maybe it's a gamble you can do if you went for him in January or whatever. If next summer we pay 80 million quid for Ivan Toney or 70 million and that's your main striker, I think that's a massive risk. Should we move on anyway? Thanks to loads of people in the chat and the comments. Joey Jobo says, up the sloppers. One of the fans of Sloppy Joe's podcast. Make sure you check out Sloppy Joe's podcast. Should we have a little bit of Bet Victor and Last Fan Standing? Yeah. Adam McCullough has
talking sense,
doing God's work, chatting to rival fans and letting him know how it goes down. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, so Jamie Carragher and all that, we're talking about how tall he was. Mate, Harry Kane's about 6'3" and didn't get a sniff when he was stood around Lisandro Martinez, yeah. Let's just look at him right now. Factually, he is currently the best centre-back in the Premier League, isn't he? Van Dijk's still having nightmares. And he's playing the mannequin challenge every week. Like, what's going on with him? Lisandro Martinez is just the man. He's the absolute man. Clean sheets galore for United. Varane disappears. He has to babysit Harry Maguire. Does it all. No worries. And he's only 5 foot.
He's right. I honestly do think no centre-back in the league has been better than Martinez this season.
You were saying this the other day, and you were making the case of like, he's not just been good. He's been like Ruben Diaz at City good.
Yeah.
Like, he's gone into United's back four and just not just been a brilliant defender, but a leader. Someone who's got everyone going.
That's what I was saying.
When you made this point, I think just privately. I don't think it was on camera, but
when Diaz went to City, he's not been as successful as Diaz, obviously, yet, because he's been here fucking 10 weeks. I know that, but there was a feeling that they were kind of between things. Like Laporte looked great, but wasn't quite enough. They'd tried Mangala, they'd tried Otamendi, they'd tried, Company had left, and they were in this point where they were like, we need someone to come into this defence and sort this out because they're on the cusp of a bit of a wobble. And Diaz came in and just looked brilliant from the start. What was he, 22 when they bought him? Young player.
He smashed it in a way that I didn't think he was going to.
And I'm not saying he's quite that level, or it remains to be seen. But Martinez has come in and not just been better than the person he's replaced, but he's made the players around him better. He's given this. Our defence now has this screaming each other's face mentality when they do a tackle, like celebrating defensive actions like attackers celebrate goals. And that's what you need, because the best thing a defender can do is stop the opposition scoring. And if you do that, that is just as helpful to a win as an attacker scoring at the other end. So they need to celebrate that, and I love that they do that. He's brought so much to this team defensively that no one else has done that in the league this season. You can't tell me William Saliba having half-decent season at Arsenal because they're not conceding many goals has been better than Lisandro Martinez. He just hasn't.
No, not at all. Make sure you go and check out Last Man Standing with Bet Victor. Get involved in the comments. Let them know that you came from Stretford, Paddock, and let Adam McCullough know why you believe in what he's saying and you think Lisandro Martinez is the best centre-back in the Premier League. And if you don't believe that, tell us why you don't believe it as well, because I think if you're a Manchester United fan, you will believe that because he's won the absolute hearts and minds of all Reds, or all Reds I've spoken to. Anyway, shall we talk about some other transfer rumours? Now, this is a kid I've not really heard much about. Apparently he's decent, midfielder, but couldn't tell you a lot about him.
I'll tell you about him.
Go on.
Jed Birmingham.
Jed Birmingham, right? Yeah. And he plays for Leverkusen, is it?
Atletico Wasps.
Ah, right.
Yeah,
nice.
That's why you've got the black and white kit.
Right, okay, I get it.
Like you've heard of the wasp, the animal? It's like a sort of, imagine a bee on a diet.
Right, like a furless bee.
This is Jed Birmingham.
Yeah.
He started off in Birmingham, which is why he was named after it.
Nice.
And he's got the body of a shed, which rhymes with Jed.
Right, okay.
So that's why he's called. Reading this again, Jude. Oh no, sorry, it's Jude Bellingham. Sorry,
right.
Who's Jed Birmingham?
Yes.
There was someone in a chat room.
Right.
Sent me a picture of a Vauxhall Nova that was some sex toys on the passenger seat. Anyway, Bellingham's top target. Jude Bellingham becomes Manchester United's top transfer target as Eric Ten Hag eyes a eye-watering £100 million deal. United have not given up on signing Bellingham, with the teenager having emerged as boss Eric Ten Hag's top transfer target for next summer. But United will face competition, nay, stiff competition for Bellingham from fellow Premier League rivals and neighbours Manchester City, while Liverpool and Real Madrid also want to sign him. So we'll face competition from City, but also Liverpool and Real Madrid want to sign him, but seemingly we won't face competition from them.
I had this in my news this morning.
Who's this from, by the way? Who's given us this? The Mirror?
I think the Mirror.
Somewhat reliable.
The Mirror had it. The Mirror actually had him at £129 million. I think was the price tag that had been bandied about. Kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you? Because I think we're into that sort of region now. £100 million has been done. Grealish went for £100 million.
Basically, what's his name at Liverpool? Darwin Núñez. We got Anthony for €100 million. Yep. You go back even further a few years when you had like Coutinho going for 120, rising to 145, I think it was. Brilliant.
Which was an absolute one of the worst transfers in the history of football.
Well, you say that, Jay, but he's playing for Barcelona now, so he's done all right.
I know I say this all the time, but Barcelona spent all that money on him, loaned him to Bayern Munich, and he scored 2 goals against them to knock him out of the Champions League.
And you're saying that's a bad thing?
And Liverpool went and invested some of that money into a team that won a few bits and pieces. Listen, I like Jude Bellingham.
Jed Birmingham,
who you saw on Vauxhall Nova.
Oh no, sorry, it's not him. I keep forgetting. Sorry, Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, Jude Bellingham, not the guy from your chat room with the Vauxhall Nova full of sex toys. Now, I like him, good player, certainly looks a business whenever I've seen him. I've not seen loads of German football. I'm not going to pretend I have. Is he the answer? is a gamble. He's never kicked a ball in the Premier League. We've seen it with someone like Jack Grealish, who had kicked a ball in the Premier League and done very well at Aston Villa, went to City and he's a bit underwhelming. But one thing I will say is this. United in the past have gone for the best young British or Irish midfielder they could get their hands on. They've broke a transfer record fee for him, and it's kind of worked out okay. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Brian Robson or Roy Keane. I'm not saying that at all. But sometimes if you really want to go for it, you have to go for it and take a little bit of a punt. And it might be that the case. The caveat, City want him, Real Madrid want him, and the Scousers want him. Can we usurp them to his signature? I think it may even come down to who's got Champions League football out of us and the Scousers. Because I think if he is tempted to come to United or Liverpool, that could be a deciding factor.
My concern with Jude Bellingham is, and this might sound a bit stupid, Jay, so correct me if I'm just talking shit. I feel as though over the last 5 years, or maybe decade really, but certainly the last 5 years, football and football tactics and football management is coming down a funnel of specialists.
Right.
You have to be world class at one or two things, and you're put next to someone that is world class at a slightly different one or two things, and you're put next to someone who's world class at a slightly different two or three things. Be that tackling and short passing, be that sort of long range passing and balls in behind, be that long shots and sort of short passing and dribbling to sort of create chances. Teams seem to be full of specialists now. Like Rodri at City, he's a specialist in winning the ball back, passing it short, winning the ball back, passing it short. Kevin De Bruyne is a specialist at that sort of like what you'd call approach play in golf, like getting it onto the green from the fairway. He's unbelievable at getting it onto the right spot. And you've got Gundogan, who's a sort of industrious metronome in there as well, just keeping things ticking over, never stopping that pressure. Jude Bellingham is almost too good at too many different things. I know he's very good at winning the ball back. I know he's a decent passer. He chips in with a goal here and there. But part of me worries that he's too much of a good at everything type player. What I would like to see over the next few years is him turn into someone where you go, he is the best at the world at this, best in the world at this. He is the best in the world at that. Because at the minute, he's a good finisher. He can get a goal. He's a decent passer. He can spray the ball and control games. He's a good tackler, but he's not world class at any of those things yet. And my only worry would be almost in the sort of Paul Pogba way, where he was fucking brilliant at everything, but not a specialist enough in any one thing to ever really fit. And I think we need to see Bellingham become something specific to fit what seems to be all managers going down this road of you have to be brilliant at this, you have to be brilliant at this, you have to be brilliant at this, and not do much else. It's all about tactics and specificity at the minute, and he's almost too good at everything. So I know that's a mental thing to say, and it's not a reason not to sign him. I'd love us to sign him. But that's my thought, is like, what is he the best in the world at, or what could he become the best in the world at? That's what I think we need to see over the next couple of years from him. But he's obviously immensely talented, phenomenal footballer, and so good at so many things. I'm not trying to knock him, but that's my only, is that a mad thing to say?
No, it makes sense. My sort of thing that I was thinking when you were saying all that, which I get, is the fact that we can almost forget this kid's 19.
That's exactly.
Do you know
right.
what I mean? Like, he's a 19-year-old.
It is insane.
Been at Birmingham as a 16, 17-year-old. Was that good? He got a shirt number, retired, which, okay, was a little bit excessive. But it was, but it happened. Do you know what I mean? Went to Dortmund, has smashed it there, and is one of their best, not just one of their best players, one of the best players in the Bundesliga. And he's 19. Now, you look at, I will do it, I measured midfielders by the likes of Scholes, Keno, Robbo. I think at the age 19, Robbo had 2 broken legs or broke his leg, and people were saying, is he even going to make it? Keno, I think, was still, I think he'd just gone from Cobb Ramblers to Forest when he was 19. I think Scholes, who, he wasn't even in the United team when he was 19. I think it was when he got into his 20s that he was. So this is a kid.
He's an astonishing.
He's an astonishing. So you're right. But you can already think to yourself, there's every reason to believe he will do that.
There is.
Do you know what I mean?
There is. I'm not saying he won't. I'm not saying he won't do that. And maybe he could just be brilliant at everything, like someone like Zidane. I saw some quotes of Roy Keane talking about him the other day, saying he was bigger than everyone, he was stronger than you, he was more graceful than you, he could finish better than you, he's a better passer than you, he's a better tackler than you. Maybe he could be that kind of player, where he's just a phenomenon in midfield. Let him do what he wants.
I think Roy Keane, we saw it, right? If you watch Roy Keane at United, If you watched him at Forest, I know that's a little bit like, really? I saw him a few times at Forest. I was obviously only young. But you watched him at United. Roy Keane massively progressed at United.
Yeah.
He went through this player who was, when he signed, I think he said he considered himself more of an attacking midfielder, which seems a bit crazy.
Yeah.
But I think it was actually a conversation with Brian Robson, and Brian Robson said to him, you can be more box-to-box. And he became more box-to-box. Mm-hmm. And arguably his best attribute was tackling and winning the ball and turning defence into attack, which wasn't something he'd necessarily been brought in specifically to do. He develops into that player.
Yeah.
I think Jude Bellingham has everything in his locker to do that. I understand with you your argument, because I watched Paul Pogba at the age of 18 for the academy and thought that kid is going to be one of the greatest.
He's one of those players where you say, he can do everything.
Yeah.
Jude Bellingham, you watch him, you go, he can do everything.
Yeah.
And then you think, but what can he do better than everyone else? That's what you need.
Yeah. And one thing I like about Bellingham is he took a risk going to Germany. I respect that.
Yeah,
yes, I would rather he would come at United when we were linked with him when he was 17 at Birmingham. But he took a punt going to Germany. He seems to have a strong family around him. He seems to be close to his family. I always think that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
I think his mum and dad or his dad looks after him. And I think United do have a relationship with they've stayed in touch. And, I know he didn't sign for us. There's something positive going on there. And I wonder, right, and this is a question for everyone, and I will get into the chat in a minute, do United need to take a punt on someone like this to try and get to the top, or can we do it more gradually? Do we need someone like, let's go for Bellingham, get Bellingham in, and he could take us to that level?
Maybe.
Because he could be the catalyst that takes you from kicking around third and fourth and fifth to winning a title.
So in this team, let's say he was to come in next season, who would you put him in instead of? Eriksen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love Eriksen.
Yeah.
It's maybe even Eriksen or Bruno in it. I think it's probably more Eriksen for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But has he got the passing range that Eriksen's got?
No. But
yeah, he will have in 2 years.
He will have, and he's got other attributes that Eriksen probably hasn't got.
Yeah.
And also Eriksen, I know he's like he's probably been playing better. I absolutely know he's been playing better this season than I've ever seen before. I don't see him going like that for the next 3 or 4 years.
No.
He in 3 or 4 years could be, and there's a massive C on that, could be the world's best midfielder.
Yeah.
He could literally be that. He's on that trajectory.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He is.
So it's like, is it worth going, do you know what? And then let's have right. If you're willing to pay €100 million for Anthony, who scored 8 goals and got 4 assists last season, and don't get me wrong, I love the kid, but you willing to do that? Are you not willing to pay a bit more for someone like Jude Bellingham, who for me is less of a gamble? Still a gamble, but less of one. I'm going to get in some of the chat.
Yeah,
Lots of people chatting, but you make a good point. I think it's a really, really good discussion. Happy in the super chat says, great to see you lads. Looking forward to tomorrow's game up at the Paddock. But me, Joe, and Adam McCullough, and a special guest from what's it called? Not the Big Pear, what's it called? Big Apple.
Big Cheese.
The Big Apple of Stateside. The city that never sleeps. The city's so nice, they named it twice.
They named it Rice.
Named it Rice.
Rice, Texas.
Sweaty Legend says, I love this. Sell Maguire to Barcelona just randomly.
Sure.
Yeah, let us know what you think about Bellingham. Najim says, the boy's 19, come on. He can become world class. Yeah, we were talking about that. Miles says, very reminiscent of a very young Schweinsteiger. Mohamed Hamdi says he's very similar to Pogba. Luke Powell, however, says, I really don't get the hype. Ed says, if Real are in, I think Jude goes there. Arnold and Murta will go and bag Rice because he's going into his final year, so it'll cost no more than 50 million-ish. What a drop down. I will say there's one final point on Jude Bellingham and the Real Madrid link. Jacob Morris in the super chat says, Jays, Cherry, Pepsi Max money. Thanks for that, bro. There's a chance, because a lot of these players, like I made a point about Haaland this morning, the career's managed quite well by the parents, and they've worked together, obviously, with them and go, right, here's what you're going to do now. You're going to go to Dortmund. In a few years, you'll go to this club.
Yeah.
And I think they might be looking at it going, you could go to United till you're 24 for 5 years or whatever, until you're 25, and then go to Madrid.
Do you know something, right?
He could do both.
I don't want him to come to United and then leave.
But he could.
I'd quite respect him if he went to Real Madrid. Because there's a lot, not a lot, but there's a handful of British players who go to like a Dortmund level team. You saw it in Italy. I think Ashley Young went, and we've seen Tomori as well at Roma. It's rare to see a British player go to a mega team, like Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona. And if he went, obviously, I'd rather he came to United, of course. But of those options,
which English players done that?
McManaman, Beckham,
Laurie
Owen.
Cunningham.
Yeah, but like on the way up. Because Owen had stagnated at Liverpool massively, hadn't he? Beckham, again, sort of stagnated at United. He was on the way out rather than like...
Yeah, he was still a move, but he'd have
I don't mean on the way out in terms of his ability.
He fell out with Fergie and it was all going wrong. Yeah, doing that, listen, Jude Bellingham, great player, but if he goes to the Scousers, I will boo him.
Yeah.
Because that's just the way it works. Let's move on quickly. We're going to wrap up a couple more stories. Diogo Dalot, Juventus interest.
Not having him. Next.
Right, nice. I agree. He's give him a contract extension. He's only on about 25k a week, I think I read somewhere. I don't know if that's right.
You're
but
more
it
than
is. Yeah, I wish.
Likes on Twitter.
If that's the case, I'll take that magnet off my electricity meter. Right, move on. David De Gea, we spoke about him on Twitter Spaces. Thanks for everyone who got involved. Willing to take a United pay cut. This is a story in the Athletic. He's on 375 grand a week. He's willing to take a pay cut to get a new deal. Would you be happy if he stayed and took a pay cut, or do you think it's time for us to move on and him to move on?
It's getting to the point with De Gea where it feels a bit like, I'll do anything you want, just don't leave me. Do you know what I mean? Like relationship, where it's like, please no, because and this isn't well, it is a bit of a dig, but I'm not trying to be mean here.
Yeah.
I don't think he would go to a club as big as Manchester United if he left us now.
No.
I think he's taken a noticeable step down in terms of his pay, which he's willing to do anyway, which I respect. I do respect that. In terms of stature, he could probably get a Champions League club because there are plenty of teams in the Champions League that aren't as big as Man United. But I think it would be a Spanish team on the cusp of that top four. I think it would be an Italian team, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe even go to sort of an elite team in Turkey or France. But I don't think he's not going to a Man United. He's not going to a Barca, Real Madrid, PSG, Bayern Munich. He's not going to one of those teams. So I think part of him's thinking, if I want to keep my profile, if I want to keep playing for one of the best teams in the world or biggest teams in the world, I've got to take a pay cut. I just feel like we can get someone cheaper and better.
Producer Ethan's put a link in the chat. I've got a podcast with David Scott, Scotty Motti Podcast. We've got a Patreon group. It's only £2 a month. Go and check that out. Make sure as well you're checking out Sloppy Joe's. There's a link in the chat. Great point about David De Gea. I understand what you're saying. I don't think he does. I want to just move on quickly to the Casemiro comment, because it was the thumbnail. So I want to talk about it before we wrap up. Casemiro was at the press conference today with Erik Ten Hag. And he said that I'm working on Erik Ten Hag. He said, after being in football for quite a while, even though I'm only 30, his obsession, he talked about Erik Ten Hag, for winning is what surprised me the most. I think he's got many strengths. We all know it's a process and we're growing together. We want to win, and he is obsessed with teaching us and making us better to the millimetre. That obsession with winning is something I've only seen with very few managers. Now, this isn't someone who hasn't won much talking about this. This is one of the most successful footballers in the history of European football. I know he's Brazilian, but he plays in Europe. He's won 5 Champions Leagues. He's won the league. He's won the lot. Yeah. He's come here, and he doesn't strike me as someone who's full of it. He could sat in that press conference and gone, I enjoy it. Yeah, I enjoy playing for Manchester United. It's great. He specifically talked about Erik Ten Hag's mentality, his obsession with winning, as something he identifies with. Good to hear that,
and
really.
It strikes me as the quote of a quite intelligent person as well. He's putting across a concept there that is not your traditional sort of media trained, we're all enjoying it under the new manager, the training sessions are great, it's nice to see that
take
intensity.
Each game as it comes.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm enjoying my form, but it's all about the team and all that. That's all that matters winning it. He's not done that. He's looking at this, he's reflecting on his own career, and he's talking about something specific that this manager does. His obsession with winning that he's not seen in many other managers, making us better to the millimetre. He's giving us a lot there with quite a small quote, isn't he? He's telling us that stuff we already like to think we know, or stuff that has been rumoured about Ten Hag before, but just how specific and intricate Ten Hag is with his coaching sessions, with the way he sets the team up. Like, talking about this obsession with winning, I think, obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was obsessed with winning. Obviously, Jose Mourinho and Louis van Gaal were obsessed with winning because they've won a lot as players, as managers, whatever. But there seemed to be a time for United where not winning was accepted. And not that it was okay or we were happy with it, but there was no real consequence to not winning. And I think I brought this up before, but the thing that summed that up for me best was last season, David De Gea saying, I don't know what's happening. It's almost like there's a curse on us. Like, completely removing yourself and any responsibility, and the players, any responsibility from the way that the team performs. Ten Hag will not let that happen, will not let those sorts of thoughts enter the heads of these players. And if they do, those players will go.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with it. And That's such a big thing for me. We need to get back to a team that only cares about winning. And if you don't win, you are distraught, and that is a failure. Because before it was like, well, we finished fourth, not a bad season, eh, lads? That's how
I
it
had
felt.
that criticism of the United team a lot, that they didn't hate losing enough.
Yeah.
Listen, you make some great points. Big thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. Make sure you go and check out Last Fan Standing with Bet Victor, Adam McCullough and the other rival fans on there. There's a link in the description, a link in the chat. Big thanks to them for their sponsorship as well. Joe, where can people find you?
Find me on Joe Smith 93 on Twitter or on the Sloppy Joe's podcast.
Sloppy Joe's podcast. You find me and Scotty and Motti. There's a link in the chat to our Patreon as well. I'll be back in the morning with the news, so make sure you check in there. Oh no, I won't be back in the morning. I'm talking rubbish. What's in the morning?
In the morning, we've got Maram from The Athletic.
Yes.
We're chatting about Marcus Rashford. And she, honestly, one of the most left field reasons why Marcus Rashford is playing so well, left field, no pun intended, check out the video tomorrow. Basically, the reason he's doing so well is because we're not giving the ball as much. We're not playing down the left-hand side as much. Honestly, she explains it. Check the video out tomorrow. It makes perfect sense. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We'll be here tomorrow evening with the watch-along for the Real Sociedad game. We've done a preview for that. There's been a little bit of a confusion as to what United need to do to qualify or to finish top of the group. There's an explanation in the pinned comment on the preview. Go and check the preview out. Go and check Sloppy Joe's. Go and check Scotty Moy. Go and check Bet Victor out. And make sure, more importantly, you're subscribing to Stretford Paddock. That's been Joe. I've been Jay. Thanks for watching.